Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, let me begin with a very warm expression of thank you to Thermi for inviting me to be with you and to address you in this important occasion. I would of course have preferred to be amongst you instead of communicating with you from afar, but prior commitments made it impossible for me to travel to Spain today. I nevertheless wanted to share with you my views on this important topic. So a very warm thank you to the organizers for arranging this video link-up. As many of you know, the European Ombudsman holds the EU institutions, bodies, offices and agencies to account through the investigation of complaints and by carrying out own initiative inquiries. The complaints that have been brought to me in the area of disabilities include, among others, individuals who want to know what the EU is doing and who find that the institution's publications and websites are inaccessible for persons with disabilities. Individuals wanting to visit the EU institutions who have alleged that the buildings are at times inaccessible. Individuals wanting to work for the EU institutions who have turned to the Ombudsman in order to draw attention to barriers they face in their attempts to do so. For example, a visually impaired person argued that the website of the European Personnel Selection Office is not user-friendly for the visually impaired. More recently, a dyslexic candidate argued that the office had not given her enough time to complete her test. Finally, individuals actually working for the EU institutions who have turned to the Ombudsman alleging failure by the institutions to pay out allowances to which they are entitled, and also failure to care for their children with disabilities. With the active engagement and constructive cooperation of the institutions, the Ombudsman has managed to help very many of these complainants. But we still need to identify the underlying cause of many of these problems. That is, the very barriers that prevent people with disabilities from participating fully in the debates, actions, projects, and initiatives of the European Union, and indeed in its very institution. This is precisely the philosophy that underpins the UN Convention. The idea, that is, that the barriers that persons with disabilities face are society's problem, and it is up to us to tear them down. Let me turn now to the UN Convention. Within the scope of the Ombudsman's mandate, citizens and organizations may turn to me if they consider that the EU administration is not acting in accordance with the Convention. I expect citizens or representative organizations increasingly to do so. The Ombudsman is one of the bodies charged with protecting, promoting and monitoring the EU's implementation of the Convention under the so-called Article 33, Paragraph 2 framework. I look forward to working with the other framework participants in the years ahead, including the European Disability Forum that I imagine is well represented at your meeting today. The framework held its constituent meeting in January of this year, and we will meet again in May to plan the work ahead. For those of you familiar with the Ombudsman's work, you will know that when the EU institutions make a commitment to citizens, I will do all that I can to hold them to that commitment. As far as the Ombudsman is concerned, it is of utmost importance that the Union live up to the promises it has made to citizens in signing and ratifying the UN Convention on the Rights of Persons with Disabilities. Thank you very much for your attention, and let me wish you a stimulating and rewarding meeting.